On a normal morning, truck driver Will says goodbye to his wife Kate and their children Grayson and Bram and drives to work through the streets of Los Angeles patrolled by soldiers with red helmets. Later, in a conversation with a co-worker, it becomes clear that Will is planning an illegal trip beyond the wall. He meets a smuggler who puts him in a metal box covered with ice. It is then that Will discovers he has a traveling companion to whom he reveals that he's looking for his 12-year-old son left behind the wall. Soon the vehicle passes through the gates and an explosion happens, overturning the truck. Dazed, Will crawls out only to be captured by the red helmets. It turns out that in 2025, aliens occupied Earth and surrounded cities with 300-meter walls to limit human movement. That same morning, Kate goes to an underground cellar in search of banned insulin. By restricting medications, the invaders eliminate the weak, making it very difficult to obtain them. She offers a bottle of alcohol in exchange, but discovers the insulin is spoiled. Kate fights her way out with a pistol, risking detection by drones and death for everyone, but she cannot afford to be robbed. Meanwhile, Will is arrested and unable to call his wife. Kate is worried as walking the streets at night is forbidden. Then her sister Em arrives with her son who needs insulin. Kate assures her she will find the medication and asks to stay with the children. She goes to her husband's co-worker who lies saying he doesn't know where Will is. Kate has to return home empty-handed. Suddenly, an alarm sounds through the city. Kate hides under a military truck parked on the sidewalk. A drone hovers above while a prisoner is shoved inside the vehicle. When it seems Kate is doomed, the truck begins to move and the drone flies away. She arrives home in the morning and visits her friend Broussard to report Will's disappearance. It is revealed that, like her husband, Broussard was in the FBI before the aliens arrived. He asks her to return home while he checks his remaining contacts, but Kate goes to the hospital where she finds out about the explosion at the city entrance. Amidst the chaos, she sneaks into a storage room and steals several vials of insulin. In prison, Will listens to the confessions of his cellmates who will soon be sent to work in a factory for the aliens. Then soldiers arrive, one of them shouting Will's real last name. He is recognized and taken to the Green Zone where the world leaders now reside. There, he is met by Snyder, a representative of the governor of Los Angeles. Snyder knows about Will's background and his ability to catch dangerous criminals. Since the military and police disappeared after the aliens' arrival, Will had to hide. Now Snyder needs his help, offering full protection for his family in exchange. The Masters demand security, so Will is to lead a special unit to infiltrate the rebels and capture their leader, Jono. When the alien ship is about to take off, Snyder takes Will to the balcony, trying to convince him to switch sides. If he refuses, his family will be sent to the factory. At night, the Red Helmets bring Will home, scaring his family. He reassures them by saying he had an accident, but Kate realizes he is lying. Upon hearing that he went looking for Charlie, she cries, and Snyder's proposal infuriates her. She would never be forgiven for becoming a traitor's wife. But in the morning, the family wakes up to the smell of bacon in the kitchen. They find Snyder, who has prepared breakfast. While eating, he lists all the benefits of their new status: security, a personal tutor for the children, good food, and work. Furthermore, the aliens allow the couple to reopen their old bar. However, Will only agrees in exchange for the return of his son, who is in another block. Snyder promises to consider this option. The next morning, Kate arrives at a discreet house where members of the resistance are waiting. She informs them that the occupiers have hired her husband to find them, which means she has always been part of the resistance. The next day, Will goes to work and realizes Snyder tricked him. Instead of becoming commander of a special unit, he is subordinate to Phyllis, who tasks him with finding the person responsible for planting a bomb at the city entrance. His partner is Beau, an old policeman. Meanwhile, Kate arrives at her bar and finds the belongings of her lost son. Broussard interrupts her cleaning, wanting to know what the police discovered about the explosion at customs, but Will just started the job and has no information yet. Will and Beau go to the house of the wanted criminal's girlfriend and, using a trick, force the man out the back door. The agent catches up to him when a drone appears. Will looks fearlessly into the lens and it disappears instantly. The police take the detainee to the station where Will's imprisoned colleague is. The man begs Phyllis to release him as an informant, but she refuses. Will goes to his trailer, but his family is no longer there. His wife and child are entering the house at that moment. After hiding the mother and son upstairs, Kate goes to Broussard as the couple needs new documents. He refuses to help as the resistance cannot take risks. Kate returns home and confronts Will. Upon learning that his friend's family is with him, he takes them to a man who makes fake documents. On the way, they are stopped by the Red Helmets. After checking the pass, they let them go with apologies, leaving Kate in a state of shock. They safely reach the masters, and while he makes the documents, Will tells Kate that he caught the person responsible for the bomb, and once they find Jono, they can bring Charlie back. Later, Will takes the woman and child to a camp where displaced people live. Kate meets with the resistance leader Alexander, who calms her by saying the captured boy belongs to another group but promises to let them know. At the station, Will discovers that a group of prisoners is being prepared to be sent to the factory. Phyllis asks him to resign himself. During the arrival, the city's entire defense was destroyed in 8 hours. Kate comforts her distressed husband. When he is informed that the suspect revealed the location of his accomplice's hideout, he leaves and Kate rushes to the phone to warn Broussard. Meanwhile, the prisoners are taken to the location, forced to strip, disinfected, and then dressed again. At the same time, the Red Helmets arrive at the location indicated by the detainee and find only the bodies of the rebels, and Will realizes there is a spy among the police. The next morning, a man with a cart enters a discreet house on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Immediately, a radio broadcast begins with calls to overthrow the occupation made by Jono. The Red Helmets detect the transmission and head to the location. At the same time, Bram duplicates the broadcaster recording and hides the tapes under his bed, but the military invades the house and finds no one. That same day, Kate participates in an armed resistance attack on a food truck for the first time. During the operation, one of her comrades, Ken, is fatally wounded. Kate tries to help him, but Broussard finishes the job, shocking Kate. Then drones arrive and begin shooting at random pedestrians. Broussard calculates the authorities' response time to the incident. After the operation, Kate rushes home and can barely wash off the bloodstains. She is so shaken that she doesn't want to explain anything to Will, and after a moment together, she locks herself in her room. That day at school, Bram gives a cassette tape to his teacher, who notices a change in the takeoff pattern of the alien ship. He saw a very large object circling the Earth in the sky and now intends to build a more powerful telescope. The police arrive at the scene of the incident. Will notices the body of a boy who was clearly finished off. Phyllis orders them to take a picture and quickly discovers his name. After this, the Red Helmets go to the boy's house and arrest his parents. Will is outraged by this and doesn't notice Broussard in the crowd, who heads to the resistance base and reports what happened. But Alexander is confident that Ken left no traces. Will then goes home, where Kate explains her grieving behavior over the things found in the bar that belonged to their son. Distressed, Will blames himself for being powerless against the masters, but his wife promises her support. Later, Kate goes to meet with Broussard. He justifies his actions as a way to save Ken from torture, but now she needs to extract everything her husband learned during the investigation. At the same time, Bram's friend asks for his help and takes the boy to an underground tunnel beneath the wall where her brother slipped and hurt his leg. It turns out their father worked there before the aliens arrived, and now they use the tunnel to pass beyond the wall. Will and Bo go to a cultural center. They listed it among the places visited by the deceased Ken and found a rebel weapons cache. At the same time, Bram's friends tell him that they have been crossing to the other side for 6 months to get food since there is no one beyond the wall. Alexander finds out about the lost weapons and asks Broussard to warn Kate about the unacceptable opening of the establishment, and explains to Will that by reviving these places, the masters allow people to release tension safely. Upon hearing this, Kate is furious, thinking they sold out to the aliens to get their son back. But Will is convinced that by continuing to work for Snyder, he will be able to find Charlie. Later, he talks to Bo again about the spy, but the ex-policeman who has already faced betrayals does not believe in this possibility. Meanwhile, Kate tells Broussard that the rapid discovery of the Resistance's hideouts is explained by a large database in the possession of a woman who knows how to use it. She's ready to reveal her name if Will remains unharmed. Then Broussard swears to it, but Kate doesn't seem convinced. The next day, a squad of Red Helmets invades the school. The military brutally arrests a teacher and beats a student. Returning to the base, one of them takes off his helmet, revealing himself to be Broussard. Later, he explains to Alexander that he has learned the Red Helmets' shift schedule, and now they have a chance to be in the right place at the right time. On the same day, Phyllis shows Will information about the Los Angeles rebels. If they unite and attack, the entire block will be cleared out. She hopes Will understands what this means for him and his family and counts on his loyalty. Meanwhile, Kate takes the children for a walk with Lindsay, the governor appointed by the authorities, and turns on a streetlight, sending a predefined signal. The sound of broken glass is heard. The woman counts to 10 and then pulls a fire extinguisher. Only after putting out the fire does she call the emergency services. The Red Helmets and Will arrive. He is indignant to discover that his house is being searched, but this is the protocol. Kate is called to go to Phyllis for an interrogation. She promises to reinforce security for the family. Furthermore, the neighbors are warned that if anything happens to them, they will be held responsible. Kate is shocked because now they will be feared. Phyllis interrogates her about everything, even about the personal relationship between husband and wife. Meanwhile, Maddie goes to the Commission for the Preservation of Cultural and Artistic Items looking for work and introduces herself to Charlotte, the director, hoping to become her assistant. After his wife's interrogation, Will confronts Phyllis, but she shows him the tapes found under Bram's bed and advises him to keep a closer eye on his son. For now, she will keep this evidence. Furious, Will drives home, and after a difficult conversation, Bram shows his parents the posters. Their presence in the city signals the launch of a new broadcast by Jono. Kate manages to extract a promise from Alexander not to harm her husband and in return identifies his boss, Phyllis, in a photo. Later, a new broadcast by Jono begins in the city. This time, the police detect the signal coming from the library and rush there. The man hears their approach but utters his last words, calling for the resistance. He is arrested, although Will guarantees he is not Jono, greatly disappointing Snyder, who had already informed the masters of the victory. That same day, Maddie witnesses the anger of Charlotte, who needs a painting by a specific artist. She informs her that she knows who had collections in the city as she worked as an art historian. Meanwhile, the arrested man confesses during the interrogation that he found the text for the broadcast in a tube. The police go to the location and verify that the indicated tube leads to the green zone. Charlotte's workers find art items in the house mentioned by Maddie. In gratitude, the owner hires her and promises to help with the insulin. On the same day, Phyllis informs Will that, as a sign of trust, she destroyed the tapes. The man goes home, where Bram admits that he listened to Jono because he was the only one who instilled hope in people. Kate arrives at the bar earlier than usual and finds Phyllis in the lounge, who wants to speak with her privately. Phyllis talks about her husband and draws parallels with Will, who loves his wife so much that he doesn't see who she really is. She shows surveillance photos of the truck attack site and warns Kate that she got involved with the wrong people. If Kate wants to survive now, she will work for Phyllis. After the conversation, Phyllis returns home where her paralyzed husband is. She greets him, but upon entering the living room, finds Broussard there. Phyllis immediately understands why he came and asks him to kill her husband too. Then Broussard shoots. The next day, Beau and Will go to the crime scene and find the word Jono written on the wall. Snyder is furious because Phyllis was very close to the masters and demands that the criminal be found. A message arrives about the capture of a member of Jono's group. Will interrogates the young man, who gives an address in the green zone. The Red Helmets invade there, finding a hidden room and several people who call themselves Jono's group. Meanwhile, Bram, accompanied by his girlfriend, goes under the wall and ends up in a deserted city where they find necessary supplies in a huge warehouse. Back in Los Angeles, it is broadcast that the underground has been eliminated, although Will does not believe it. Snyder is enraged again because he sees that the captured couple does not look like terrorists. He refuses to honor the agreement regarding the search for Charlie and appoints Will as the head of the group. Will immediately starts looking for the informant, and Phyllis's assistant Jennifer suggests that his wife might be the source of the leak. Returning home, Will sees Bram giving markers to his sister brought from beyond the wall, but his son lies, saying he traded them for oranges. Snyder interrogates a man who claimed to be Jono, but he confesses to being just an actor. Snyder convinces him to continue playing his role in exchange for being sent to another block. At the same time, Bram runs to his teacher and promises to get a powerful lens for his telescope. Will, without telling his wife, looks for something. Will goes to the bar but finds nothing incriminating except for a book he doesn't recognize. Jono's trial is broadcast on all channels, featuring the relatives of the victims of terrorism, and a scaffold for execution is erected in the square. The actor plays his part, believing in Snyder's promises to eradicate terrorism, but realizes he was deceived only when he finds himself on the scaffold and can do nothing about it. Right after the execution, Snyder invites Will to join him, promising to show him something they have in common. At the same time that Will leaves with the Red Helmets' cars, Alexander's group prepares for a new attack with Kate among the rebels. On the way, Will expresses his indignation to Snyder, who achieved nothing by executing the actor. But Snyder points out the need to pacify the population and buy time to look for the real Jono. Snyder's car drives through the city, escorted by a group of Red Helmets, including Broussard. On one of the curves, a fake road worker diverts them, and when the convoy slows down, Broussard shoots his colleagues. Snyder tries to flee, but Will locks the doors as the car is armored. Rebels disguised in red helmet uniforms shoot at the car and manage to tear off the door. But Will shoots from inside and still pulls Snyder out of the line of fire. Drones appear, but the rebels manage to escape. Will takes Snyder to the bar where Kate arrives at the same time. Snyder is hysterical, but Will cannot guarantee protection with his own means. Kate asks Will in private not to risk himself for such a useless person, but Will cannot leave someone without help. Realizing the phone doesn't work, he goes out to a payphone to call for backup. Meanwhile, Alexander, upon learning of Will's role in saving Snyder, is furious. Kate communicates via radio that the traitor is in the bar. She returns to Snyder and keeps the conversation going to lower his guard. He brags about being an economics professor, which secured him a high position. He mentions that there are 7 more colonies but doesn't know what happens beyond them. Will returns announcing that he managed to call for backup and they are on their way. Kate bandages Will's wound and he confesses that Jono is a collective image, not a single person. Kate asks him not to interfere with Snyder's death, but Will reminds her that another will take his place. Then Snyder reveals that his men have found their son and that he is negotiating Charlie's return. Suddenly there is a knock on the door. They hide Snyder in the bathroom. Broussard enters dressed in the red helmet's uniform and they search the place. Kate takes him to the basement, asking him to guarantee Will's safety, but he cannot guarantee anything as her husband is always taking risks. Broussard eventually leaves, but Will is certain he is a member of the resistance and will return with reinforcements. They barricade the doors with Snyder, who mentions Charlie again, infuriating Kate as she is tired of his blackmail. While the rebels try to break into the bar, a scared Snyder tells Will that the masters have tested practically all people, eliminating those they don't need, but he has never seen the aliens in person. With the rebels pressing in, Will orders Kate to hide, preparing to defend Snyder. A smoke grenade is thrown, the militants invade, and Will opens fire. When one of the rebels finds Will, Kate shoots him, but Broussard aims at her and her husband forces her to drop the weapon. The rebel takes them to the basement and leaves. Will finds a machine gun and goes after him, but when he reaches the upper floor, everyone is already gone. The real red helmets arrive and pull Snyder out of the closet where Will had hidden him. At night, Will tries to reassure Kate, explaining that Snyder's tribunal was a sham. Meanwhile, Alexander concludes that Kate is a double agent, just fooling them. Kate arrives home and is surprised by Broussard, and she quickly kills him, waking up from a nightmare. Meanwhile, Maddie begins a relationship with Nolan, Charlotte's husband, who is the leader of a new church. At the same time, Will identifies Broussard from a photo, having seen him among the soldiers, and receives an order to find and arrest him. The red helmets go to his address, but when they start to raid the house, it explodes. Will questions Broussard's colleagues, and one mentions a chest tattoo which Will recognizes as a special forces symbol. Broussard infiltrates a restricted area where he steals the corpse of a black man of similar age and physical build. Together with Alexander, they put the body in a car and burn it, and the leader convinces Broussard of Kate's betrayal. Later, the police find a burnt car with a charred body inside, which matches the description of the rebel from the bar. But Will continues to doubt everything. Kate tries to contact the underworld but fails. Finally, she finds an encrypted message with the name of a meeting place where a car with Broussard at the wheel is waiting for her. Meanwhile, Jennifer, Will's assistant, finds 14 people with Broussard's face in the database and realizes he's not just a military man but a former FBI agent. Broussard takes Kate out of the city and asks difficult questions since she shot one of their own. Kate reminds him that she always made one condition clear: her family must be untouchable. She joined the fight and served the cause faithfully. He doubts her loyalty and she leaves, reluctant to continue the conversation. Broussard goes to one of the resistance members, Rachel, and tells her about Alexander's order to eliminate Kate and how he failed to carry it out. Will arrives at Snyder's house in the Green Zone and reports that Broussard is something completely different and highly skilled, but that he will definitely find him. In response, Snyder gives him an envelope containing a recent photo of Charlie. Will takes the photo to Kate and, crying, she asks her husband to break free from Snyder's control. He promises to do so when he is ready. Meanwhile, Charlotte finds out about Maddie and Nolan's relationship and threatens to fire her. Nolan decides to remind his wife of her place and offers Maddie his assistant position. The police receive new information and Will goes home. He shows a photo of Broussard to his wife and says they found his fingerprints at the bar. This means he has been there before. Kate says she doesn't know him, but Will shows her photos of Broussard's victims. Kate remembers that he actually visited them and said he lived in his mother's house and was fixing it up. Jennifer quickly finds Broussard's mother's house using receipts from hardware stores. Rachel goes to Kate and confesses that Broussard has indeed killed many but is part of the resistance. Kate reminds her that she almost became one of his victims, but Rachel points out that Broussard did not carry out that order. Kate calls Broussard and warns him that Will has discovered everything. The Red Helmets go to Broussard's mother's house, but it is empty. The abandoned tools show that he received the warning. Will speaks with a neighbor who turns out to be Alexander, who says he hasn't seen Broussard. Will is about to leave, but then he sees on Broussard's table the same book that was at his wife's bar. Will's former partner was taken to a factory where people frequently get sick and die, discovering that the factories are built on the moon. Will shows a photo of Charlie to his children and admits that he only started working for the government to bring him back. That morning, the governor of the Los Angeles block arrives to inform Snyder that the chief minister of the Pacific region is coming for an inspection. He assures her that everything is fine, but the woman is very doubtful. Kate goes to Rachel and discovers that her youngest son is also in the resistance. She admires Rachel's courage but announces her departure from the group out of fear for her family. Rachel promises support. Alexander calls Will and declares that his wife is the informant leaking information to the rebels. He sets a meeting place. Will goes there and immediately recognizes Broussard's neighbor, who confesses to being the cell leader and is willing to betray everyone for the right to leave the block. Meanwhile, Broussard meets with the leader of the rebels' youth cell and receives information about the arrival of an important person. Will returns to Beau and tells him everything, and they begin to set up a plan. Later, he goes to Snyder and conveys Alexander's conditions. Snyder demands a personal meeting. It seems someone is ready to betray the whole cell. Then Kate immediately goes to the bar and on the way calls Broussard to warn him. Bram and his teacher observe the moon and notice changes on its surface. It seems that is where the alien mines and warehouses are. That night, Broussard goes to the bar, where Kate tells him about the leader. Broussard goes straight to Alexander and starts asking questions, but Alexander demands that he stop all communication with Kate and prepare for a new operation. The next day, Will takes Snyder to the meeting place with Alexander, who confesses he just wants to survive. He needs a universal pass to travel between the blocks and, in exchange, hands over a list of the group led by Broussard. Alexander admits they are planning an operation to eliminate the minister. He sets up a meeting for Broussard where the police will arrest him. Afterward, Will is to take Alexander beyond the wall and give him the pass. Later, Broussard arrives at the designated location in the market. Rachel and Kate are also there, and upon spotting the red helmets, Kate warns Broussard immediately. A rebel throws firecrackers, causing panic and making people scatter while the military opens fire. Rachel dies, and Broussard escapes. Will goes to Alexander's house, which is under police surveillance, and announces the cancellation of the deal with Snyder. He is ready to let Alexander flee, but Snyder starts talking about Kate signing his own death warrant. Will shoots the traitor and blames Broussard for everything. At night, people see Rachel's family hanged and Kate promises support to Broussard. Will lets his wife know he is aware of her participation in the resistance and Kate bursts into tears. The following night, a spontaneous uprising occurs during which several red helmets die. Beau claims the people's patience has run out. Will informs Snyder that he has information about a new rebel cell located beyond the wall, apparently with a passage unknown to the authorities. He asks permission to go beyond the wall and investigate. Snyder agrees, but assigns a guard to accompany them. Meanwhile, Broussard and Kate go to the leader of the youth cell who proposed a joint attack on the minister. Everything will happen in the subway, now used only by the masters. Will and Beau, having passed beyond the wall, climb a skyscraper and observe the entire city. They fake an attack against themselves while the guard tries to understand what happened, and his commander finds a map supposedly lost by the attackers. Later, Will points out the marks on the map to Snyder indicating the rebels' attack points. Snyder reports the tunnel found under the wall. Members of the youth cell showcase a B-shaped microdrone capable of flying anywhere and gathering information. The rebels finally finalize the attack plan and Broussard teaches Kate how to shoot. At that moment, the Red Helmets, led by Snyder, go to Nolan's house accusing Charlotte of hiding valuable artwork from the masters and arrest her. That night, Kate finds a book about the benefits of the aliens' arrival given to her daughter by Lindsay. She calls Will and tells him how the new church is indoctrinating the children. Will then informs her that they will move to Beau's house located beyond the wall, accusing her of espionage. But Kate can't take it anymore. They lie constantly to each other and it is destroying the family. Hiding beyond the wall is impossible. Will asks Bo to flee alone. Kate and Broussard kill the guards, go down to the subway, open an emergency entrance, and the group infiltrates. The rebels cause an explosion, derailing the train. Searching the destroyed cars, they find the body of an alien, which actually turns out to be an android. Will discovers this and runs to the station, where the governor soon arrives, announcing the kidnapping of a master. There was an incident when 2 aliens died, leading to the destruction of Dallas. Therefore, people must understand what awaits Los Angeles if they do not find the missing master. Meanwhile, a group of rebels transports the alien to a secret location, blocking signals with aluminum foil. Will runs home and asks Maddie to hide the children. She suggests taking them to the green zone. He tries to find Kate, and Bram gives him a secret number his mother received the day before. While the rebels try to move the alien to another location, a curfew is declared in the middle of the day. Maddie and the children end up in a huge line, and while trying to cut in, Bram runs away. Meanwhile, the rebels hijack a Red Helmet's car and load the alien into it. At the same time, the police receive footage from the subway cameras. Will recognizes Kate but does not reveal it. Bram runs to his teacher and takes him to the tunnel. Meanwhile, the group that kidnapped the alien moves through the city in a police car and witnesses a house being shot at to intimidate the residents. Snyder is removed from his position, but the governor cannot do anything. Meanwhile, the alien is taken to a laboratory protected from any observation method, and they try to open its suit. Will gives the rebels' codebook to Jennifer. Together, they review the footage of Broussard's attempt and identify the leader of the youth cell, who was also in the database. The rebels discover how to activate the communicator on the alien's wrist. Will knocks on the door and asks them to hand over the kidnapped being and flee, or he will not be able to save them. Kate refuses to open the door and instead breaks the insulation, forcing the rebels to flee through a secret passage. At that moment, drones converge on the house. Kate opens the door and Will calls the police. The alien is taken away. Snyder thanks Will and gives him a universal pass to go beyond the wall. Simultaneously, Bram and the teacher go down into the tunnel and are caught by the police. Snyder is taken away by the patrol. Will goes beyond the wall to find his son, and Kate returns to an empty house, thus ending the first season of Colony, a 2016 sci-fi, political, and suspense series. And I'll see you in the next video.